Hello, guten Tag, and welcome to another lesson. Today we're looking at something rather grammatical, and that rather grammatical thing is subject and object pronouns. Now, we need to first of all remember what subject and object is, and then we'll look at how that operates with pronouns. So let's remind ourselves first of all of what a subject is and what an object is. Now, in German, we talk about the subject and object in use of the different cases. So the nominative case is used for the subject, the accusative case for the direct object, and we could even argue that we have the dative case for the indirect object. And in this table we have a reminder of the different words for the in the different cases and for the different genders. So the masculine nominative word for the is der, for example. And even down here, the words for notice there's nothing in the plural because you cannot have plural but you could have had keine there, the plural of kein, not any in the plural. So we'll have that there to remind us of what the different case words are for the different genders. And we're going to look at some example sentences to try and remember and remind ourselves and understand what the different cases are. So here's my first example sentence. Der Hund beißt den Mann, which means the dog is biting the man. So it's a very straightforward, simple sentence. It is in the classic style of subject, verb, object. Now, every sentence really, to be a sentence, needs a verb. So here is the verb beißt, is biting. That's the action being described in this sentence. Now, the subject of the verb is the person or thing doing the action of that verb. So here, who or what is doing the biting? It's the dog. So that's the subject of this sentence. Therefore, the dog has to be in the nominative case in German. And as dog, Hund, is masculine noun, therefore we require the word der, masculine nominative. So it's der Hund. Now the object is who or what is having the action of the verb done to them. So in this case it's biting. Who or what is being bitten? It's the man. Therefore that is the object, therefore it goes into the accusative case in German. Therefore for a masculine noun like man, then we need the word den. So here we have der Hund beißt den Mann. The dog is biting the man. Subject here, nominative case. That's the object, the person being bitten, therefore the accusative case. Now one thing with German, I could actually swap den Mann and der Hund over. I could say den Mann beißt der Hund. If I did that in English, it changes the meaning completely. I'm now saying the man is biting the dog. Its roles have been reversed. But if I keep these two words here, I can swap these over, keep the verb as second idea, and I'm still saying that the dog is doing the biting because that is the nominative, the subject, and that is still the accusative. If I changed the der and the den over, then that would change the meaning to the man doing the biting. But because I've got this der, it tells me it's a nominative, therefore I know wherever I put this word der Hund, whether it's before the verb or after the verb, that's the one doing the biting. But in English, you have to do it purely on word order. Whatever comes before the verb is the subject. Okay, so we've got a subject, we've got an object, nominative and accusative. What about our second example? What have we got here? So here we have Das Mädchen liest die Zeitung. The girl is reading the newspaper. It's the same principle as the one before, except I've used different genders. So the verb is reading, liest. Who or what is doing the reading? It's the girl. Das Mädchen. Das Mädchen. That is the subject, therefore it's the nominative case. Now Mädchen, bizarrely, for a girl, for a person, is a neuter noun. It's das Mädchen. And what is she reading? It's the newspaper, die Zeitung. It is the accusative case, the object. And Zeitung is a feminine noun, so it's die Zeitung. Now the slightly different thing to our first example with these two nouns is that one is neuter, one is feminine, but actually you'll see their nominative and accusative case forms are the same. So feminine is die, and neuter is das and is das. So what I just said about swapping these words over wouldn't really happen in this example because the nominative and accusative forms for feminine and neuter nouns are the same. Therefore, word order is more important here. Just like in English, putting the girl first, then we know it's the girl reading the newspaper, not the other way around, which would be a bit bizarre. The newspaper reading the girl, it wouldn't actually make much sense anyway, but there we go. So, but we still have a subject in the nominative case and an object in the accusative case. Okay, so far so good, I hope. Now to a slightly longer sentence, only because the words are longer. So here we have, die Umwelt ist dem Wissenschaftler wichtig. So here we've got the verb to be, ist. And this is the subject of the verb to be. You'll never get an accusative case after the verb to be, just by the by, so we haven't got an accusative case in here. But we've got a nominative. That's the subject. What is important? The environment. Die Umwelt, it's feminine, it's a nominative case, die Umwelt. But here, notice the dem, which is the masculine dative case, because it's to the scientist. Now, the dative here is not a straightforward direct object like we had in these two examples. It's what we call the indirect object. And what we mean by that is it usually has the meaning of to or for. Here it is to. The environment is important to the scientist, therefore we use the dative, dem Wissenschaftler. It's important to the scientist, so that's why I've used the dative case there. And in my last example, I have an example of all three cases. So I have, der Schüler gibt der Lehrerin das Buch. The pupil gives the book to the teacher. So the verb is to give, geben, and you'll quite often find datives with the verb to give. If you think of the verb to give as meaning to donate, it is quite often tied in with the dative. Donate, dative, they're similar words there. So first of all, what is the subject of this verb to give? Who's doing the giving? It's the pupil, der Schüler. It's a male pupil here. Therefore, it's the masculine nominative, der Schüler. He's the person doing the giving. Now, what is he giving? The direct object. What is the item he's giving? It's over here. It's the book, das Buch. It's a neuter noun. It's accusative, das Buch. That's what he's giving. But we've also got here, to the teacher, der Lehrerin. It is the feminine dative case, because this is a female teacher, and that is the person to whom the book is being given. So I've got the pupil, nominative case, gives the book, accusative case, to the teacher, dative case. Just so happens in the German word order, in this instance, the dative has to come before the accusative. Der Schüler gibt der Lehrerin das Buch. Okay, the pupil gives the book to the teacher. So we've got a nominative and an accusative and a dative. The subject, the personal thing doing the verb, the direct object in the accusative, the thing that's having the action done to it, and the dative, the meaning of to or for. We give it to the teacher. And just to illustrate the different cases, I've even coloured the nouns into different colours. So as if by magic, here they go. So I've got all of my nominatives now in green. I've got my accusative case words in blue, and I've got my dative case words in pink, just to highlight for you what is what, which one's which. Now, with pronouns, what are pronouns very quickly? They are small words that can replace nouns. It's words like I, he, she. And we can use those to replace nouns. So I could say the dog is biting him. She is reading the newspaper. The environment is important to him, and so on. And these pronouns also exist in the nominative, accusative, and dative case in German, because obviously sometimes they'll need to be accusative, sometimes nominative, and sometimes dative. And so let's have a look at what they all look like. Here they are. So I've kept the same colour scheme. Here are all the nominative ones, here are the accusative ones, and here are the dative ones there in pink. And if you look down a nominative line, you'll see these are all the pronouns that you are already familiar with. Ich, du, er, sie, es, wir, ihr, sie, and sie. I, you, singular to one friend or family member or young person. The plural of that to two or more friends, family members, or young people, ihr, and the sie with the capital S at the bottom there, the polite form of you, whether it's one or more than one person. But here they are also in the accusative form. So if we have a look across at the ich, I think it's always a good idea to learn these going across. Ich, mich, mir, du, dich, dir, er, ihn, ihm, sie, sie, ihr, es, ihm, wir, uns, ihr, euch, sie, sie, ihnen, sie, sie, ihnen. If you remember that little chant, it'll help you to remember them all. So ich means I, but mich and mir mean me. And notice, obviously, you'll see there's quite a few similarities here with English. The M has suddenly appeared just like it does in English, me. So I would say, I saw somebody. I was the nominative case. I was doing the action of the seeing. But if that person saw me, then I'm going to use the accusative. Diese Person hat mich gesehen. They saw me. If I would say the environment is important to me, I would say, das ist mir wichtig. It's important to me. So similarly with he. He saw me. Hat mich gesehen. Subject and object. But I saw him. Ich habe ihn gesehen. And it's important to him. Das ist ihm wichtig. Or I gave the book to him. Ich habe ihm das Buch gegeben. And notice here the word ihm, it's the same letters as the English word him, just with the first two swaps over. It's virtually identical. Similarly with she, okay, here the accusative is the same as the nominative. So sie hat mich gesehen, she saw me. I saw her, ich habe sie gesehen. I'm still using the same word. But it's important to her, es ist ihr wichtig. I gave the book to her, ich habe ihr das Buch gegeben. And we've also, of course, got the word for it. Notice in the English translations I've included the word for it. That is because for things that aren't people, for example, a table, a pen, I have a pen, for example, der Kuli. It's a masculine noun. If I said, I saw it, ich habe ihn gesehen, I would say, because Kuli is masculine. I wouldn't use es because I think, oh, well, it's not a person, it's an inanimate object, I'll just use es. If it's a masculine noun, I'd have to use the masculine pronouns. If it's a feminine noun, like Krawatte, the tie, I'm wearing it, ich trage sie, I would need to use the feminine pronoun. Okay, so we would use the masculine, the feminine pronouns for nouns that are masculine and feminine, even if they're not people, they're things. So we wouldn't always use es. We only use es, ihm for neuter nouns. Then wir, uns. So uns, the accusative and the dative object, is the same here. And it's the English us. Notice it's the same word, just added an N in there. Us, uns. Then we've got euch, and then sie and sie, still the accusative, like the nominative case here. And ihnen is now the dative case. So I saw them, ich habe sie gesehen. It's important to them, das ist ihnen wichtig. I gave the book to them, ich habe ihnen das Buch gegeben. Okay, so those are the pronouns in the different cases, nominative, accusative, and dative. Let's see some examples of those. And I'm going to use my previous example sentences to show you. So here are the four sentences I had before with the color coding to see which case is being used. So the dog is biting the man. Der Hund beißt den Mann. If I wanted to replace the man with just a pronoun, the dog is biting him, then this is what it would become, because the him is obviously the accusative case. So I need the accusative pronoun. I'll just snip back to show you. Here's he and him. It's in accusative case. So I would say der Hund beißt ihn. I could even have gone another step further. I could have said, oh, it is biting him. Have you seen the dog? Oh, yes, it's biting him. This would become beißt ihn because Hund is a masculine noun. Right, the girl is reading the newspaper. Das Mädchen liest die Zeitung. Have you seen the newspaper? Yes, the girl is reading it. How would I say it? Well, it's die Zeitung, so I would say sie. Das Mädchen liest sie. This is an accusative case pronoun. I've used the feminine one because Zeitung is feminine. Even though it's not a person, we wouldn't say the girl is reading her in English. It's a feminine noun, so we need the feminine pronoun. The girl is reading it. Das Mädchen liest sie. Now in this sentence, remember, we had, again, our subject, a nominative case, but here we had a dative case. It's important to the scientist. So therefore, I could use the dative pronoun. I should use the dative pronoun, which in this case for a masculine scientist would be ihm. And here I have shortened the environment just to it. It's a feminine noun, die Umwelt, so I've used sie. Sie ist ihm wichtig. It, the environment, is important to him, ihm. Sie ist ihm wichtig. It is important to him. And finally, in my last example, where I had all three cases, we had the nominative, we had the accusative, and we had the dative. The pupil gives the book to the teacher. If I replace all of those three nouns with pronouns, it would give me gibt es ihr. He, the pupil, is giving it, the book, to her, ihr. And again, notice the order has changed there, but that's just a word order rule, that now the accusative comes first. Gibt es ihr, he gives it to her. The pupil is giving the book to the teacher. So these are pronouns that are replacing nouns. Obviously, I would have had to have mentioned these nouns earlier in a real context. So I wouldn't just suddenly say, oh, the girl's reading it. I'd say, have you seen the newspaper? There's my mention of the newspaper. Yes, the girl's reading it. Das Mädchen liest sie. So I don't have to repeat again, oh yes, the girl's reading the newspaper. Das Mädchen liest die Zeitung. So I can use pronouns to substitute for nouns that have already been mentioned. But I still need to put them into the correct case, nominative, accusative, or dative. Okay, and to do that, I can refer back to this table, which will remind me what the different forms are. So those are our subject and our object, accusative and dative pronouns. One more thing just to mention quickly to do with accusative and dative, because we have looked at this as well recently, that not only can you use the accusative and dative for these objects, direct object and indirect object in a sentence, but remember you can also use them after certain prepositions. So you could well say, I went to the park with him, mit ihm, with her, mit ihr, with them, mit ihnen. They went with me, mit mir, and so on. So whenever we need to use the accusative dative, if we're using pronouns, these are the forms we would use. Okay, I hope that all makes sense. Those are your subject and object pronouns. Dankeschön.